with our technical issues resolved, we will start all over. Today is August 22nd, 2019. This is the duly called meeting of the Texas Low-Level Radioactive Waste Disposal Compact Commission. I am Brandon Hurley, and I will call the meeting to order. I see our caboose is just dragging in. The judge is here, the vice chairman's here, Lisa.
I had to walk across the street. He came from Vermont.
Linda and Peter. So we have a quorum and we can proceed with our business. I did notice as we came in today, we have some representatives of the governor's office. We appreciate you being here. As always, we appreciate our friends from TCEQ being here, and we promise not to ask you any questions. Do we have anyone here from the press? I know today is a big day at the Capitol, so I thought press might wander in, but maybe we aren't the biggest thing on the Capitol agenda today. We are now on to item 4 of our agenda, which is the public comment period. I don't think I got any speaker cards. That being said, we are pretty small today, so if anyone has any public comment, I will invite them to come forward. How are you, Ms. Haddon? You may be the only one that wants to talk, so you can go ahead and take a seat if you want.
Good morning, Chairman and Compact Commissioners. My name is Karen Haddon. I'm the Director of SEED Coalition, Sustainable Energy and Economic Development Coalition. And I brought you some written comments today, mostly centered on more of an overall look at the WCS site with which you deal with the Compact Commission. I think it's important to look at the overall site because what happens there does impact your ability to deal with the compact waste and the ability of utilities to be able to send waste there. Right now, you are probably well aware of the greater than Class C issue. There is a NRC public meeting coming up the 27th of this month out at the Marriott out north in Austin on Arboretum Boulevard, and that goes from 6 to 9 p.m. So I don't know if any of you will be able to be there or be monitoring it, but right now there's a look at what the policies should be about greater than Class C, and this has, of course, been in motion for a long time. There was a generic environmental impact statement written that looked at several sites across the country many years ago, and then it got boiled down to where they were focused on just the WCS site for this waste stream. One of the reasons that they did that was originally the thinking was to put this waste, it really is hot. It's very, very concentrated waste. It comes from inside of nuclear reactors. It's the metal components and other things, but very concentrated waste. And GTCC-like waste includes the transuranics, plutonium, americium, etc. These materials should be going, in my opinion, to a repository. These things should be going deep underground. And originally that's what the environmental impact statement was recommending. They noted in the environmental assessment that was subsequently done for just the WCS site, that assessment claimed that they were going to base off of the EIS that was already done, and they went ahead and did an environmental assessment. And they said that the original document said that this stuff should be deep underground. The environmental assessment said, oh, we could go 120 feet deep. Well, that is not deep underground. That's shallow burial. And then the rulemaking that's under consideration has as little as 5 meters deep. One of the things that comes to light in the environmental assessment, they said they had less concern about water contamination, direct water infiltration into where the waste is. not as much as they had concerns about volatilization of radionuclides coming up through the cover, going into the air, and then being able to get into soil, air, and water and be transported. So you don't have much to go through if you're 5 meters deep, even 120 feet. And the plan, according to the environmental assessment, was to stack containers as many as 7 feet of these units, 100,000 pounds each. None of this was originally, to the best of my knowledge, and from what I can tell, part of what was conceived of for this site. And, you know, there's the 3 radioactive waste pits. There's the byproduct, the federal in the middle, and then the compact facility. They're adjacent. And this federal facility is huge. It's supposed to take, right now, up to, let me get the number right. Somebody, I'm sure, can call it out. 5.6 million curies is what the federal waste site is licensed for at this time, 5.6 million. The plan right now for greater than Class C is for all of it, the entire waste stream from the country, to go to WCS. It would equal 160 million curies. And this is 28 times the amount that is licensed for that facility, 28 times more. And the environmental assessment kind of offhandedly says, we can go to TCEQ and get an amendment for that increase, 28 times more than licensed, right next to the compact facility. Now, if you want to look at the compact facility by comparison and what you're dealing with, the limits are 9 million cubic feet, and in curies, it's 3.89 million curies for the compact facility. When you compare the two, this would be 41 times the curies that you are dealing with a filled-up compact waste facility under current licensing terms. So this is huge. It's monumental. There has not been a full site-specific EIS, and there should be. The region is one of climate extremes and natural disasters. There's been earthquakes. I don't think we would know how to tell what was going on underground if there was an earthquake. Some have been centered 5 miles away in Eunice, New Mexico. The study cited one in 1992 that was magnitude 5. That's a significant earthquake. There are concerns about worker and public exposures at this site, and this site has had problems with worker exposures in the past. Granted, it was under a different ownership at that time, but there have been problems with worker exposure at the site, and they should be considered, and they should be considered in a site-specific EIS. There is potential water contamination. There is potential volatilization of radionuclides. There are sabotage and terrorism risks. When you read the environmental assessment, you'll see numerous potential problems laid out. Then you see that it's as if there's a magic wand that waves over the whole thing and says, oh, but none of these are going to be a problem. None of these are real. And it's not, you don't get the data that you need to say why this would not be a problem and why that would not be real. You just get this overall conclusion, and that all of a sudden comes to the conclusion that, but this is no problem. And maybe a sentence or two that says we're going to have an engineered barrier. In fact, when it came to monitoring, they said it won't really take anything different, but we could put in some monitors. It's like, this is not going to take more monitoring. I'm looking for the hardcore data and the requirements that say what would be in place if this was to move forward. This proposal has not been met with approval from the governor of Texas, Governor Abbott. He wrote a letter not too long ago, which I have sent a copy to Ms. Ng to have distributed, that was not favoring bringing in greater than Class C or greater than Class C waste and increasing the amounts and the curies of radioactivity at that site. And that's, I think, very important and should be considered. I agree with that. We shouldn't be looking at this, and I think in your role as protecting the public health and safety and ensuring that there's some place for compact waste to go, this does not help. This poses a huge amount of risk that we don't need. It also poses financial risks to the state, which are immense. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Karen. We appreciate your comments.
Thank you.
Just a note, if you see us up here looking down at our computer screens, we are not surfing the internet. We have switched and jumped into the 21st century, and all of our materials are now electronic. So if we're looking down, please don't think we're playing solitaire. With that, we will move on to item 5 in our agenda, which is consideration and possible action on each of the following applications for importation of low-level waste. The first one is item 5A, which is the import application of Bionomics. And with that, I will turn it over to our technical committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The technical committee has received and reviewed an import application from Bionomics Incorporated that was dated July 3, 2019, and it's number 1-023-00. In this case, Bionomics is a broker who is a licensed waste processor and collector requesting authorization to dispose of waste in accordance with the Act. They have specifically requested authorization for Class A, Class B, and Class C stable and unstable sealed sources encapsulated in concrete, depleted uranium shielding, and those waste streams pardon me, were approved in letter correspondence from TCEQ dated July 30, 2019. They've requested a volume of 350 cubic feet and a total radioactivity of 400 curies. They have indicated that the waste would originate from a very long list of states. I think I'm going to not read them. Any waste that would originate from the Southwestern, the Rocky Mountain, or the Northwest compacts will require export authorization, although the Northwest isn't by rule, it's by sort of agreement that they would like to know when waste is going to be exported from their compact. I would note that to date, Bionomics has not provided the export authorizations or generator authorizations. And Bionomics has requested an agreement with the termination date of August 31, 2020. And they've indicated that the waste is from small quantity generators. They did check the utility box as a generator of the waste, and this is still good, acceptable as long as the waste is not coming from any nuclear power plant. And so based on that, I would, technical committee believes that it should be totaled against a small quantity generator set aside, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. The technical committee recommends approval.
Any questions about the import application of Bionomics? And I will note also that it's my understanding that Mr. McCormick wanted to be here and had a minor accident, so he couldn't, so we wish him well. But is there any other questions for the technical committee about the application? Hearing none, I think we can move on to a motion.
I make a motion that we approve the import application from Bionomics Incorporated, number 1-0230-00. The waste stream is sealed sources encapsulated in concrete and depleted uranium shielding. Waste class is Class A, Class B, and Class C. The waste form is stable and unstable. The volume is 350 cubic feet. The total radioactivity is 400 curies. The long list of states is contained in the technical review document. I'm not going to go read them for the minutes.
They are in your motion.
They are in my motion, but I'm not going to read the.
John, just an observation on that. I think it's every state except Texas and
Yeah.
Vermont.
It could very well be. And Puerto Rico, the U.S. territories, and Washington, D.C. It's quite the list. The The motion includes a requirement that Bionomics will have to provide any necessary export authorizations as well as generator authorizations. The agreement would terminate August 31, 2020, and this will be totaled against a small quantity generator set aside.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion about the import application of Bionomics? Any public comment about the import application of Bionomics? I will note that we really appreciate Bionomics and other generators who are using our electronic forms. I noticed there was a couple this time that did not use the electronic forms. And to give fair warning, I don't know the exact date on this, but there will come a time in the not too distant future where we will not accept anything but the electronic form. So there's fair warning for everybody who's still writing things in paper.
That date's happened. We no longer accept anything but electronic.
But there are a couple in here that are handwritten.
Yes, but.
They came in
they've already been
before?
submitted.
Okay.
Yeah, for the meeting for October 11th, the next meeting, they have to be
Okay.
submitted. As per y'all's direction, they have to be submitted electronically, and we sent notice out through our subscription list.
And the technical committee appreciates that very much.
I'm sure. So with that, there's a motion and a second. We'll close discussion, and I think we'll move on to a vote. All in favor of the motion to approve the import application of Bionomics, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion passes. With that, we can move on to item 5B, which is the import application of Arizona Public Service Palo Verde.
The technical committee has received and reviewed an import application from Arizona Public Service Palo Verde Generating Station. Was received July 3, 2019, and it's number 1-0231-00. In this case, Palo Verde is a generator requesting authorization to dispose of waste in accordance with the Act. They've specifically requested authorization for Class A, Class B, and Class C unstable ion exchange resin, cartridge filters, and dry active waste, and those waste streams were approved by TCEQ in letter correspondence dated July 30, 2019. They've requested a volume of 2,000 cubic feet and a total radioactivity of 600 curies. The waste will originate from the state of Arizona, which is part of the Southwestern Compact, and I would note that they will still need to provide the export authorization. They've requested a termination date of, let me check that real quick. Yes, unusually they requested an termination date of July 31, 2020 instead of August 31. So that's what they've asked for. I don't see a technical problem with having it end 1 month before the end of the fiscal year. But, the technical committee recommends approval. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for the Vice Chairman on the import application of Arizona Public Service Palo Verde? Hearing none, we'll move on to a motion.
I make a motion we approve the import application from Arizona Public Service Palo Verde Generating Station number 1-0231-00. The waste stream is ion exchange resin, cartridge filters, and dry active waste. The waste class is Class A, Class B, and Class C. The waste form is unstable. The volume is 2,000 cubic feet. The radioactivity is 600 curies. The generator will need to provide an export authorization from the Southwestern Compact before they make any shipments, and the agreement would terminate July 31, 2020.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion about the import application of Arizona Public Service Palo Verde? Any public comment on the import application? Hearing none, we'll move on to a vote. All in favor of the motion to approve the import application of Arizona Public Service Palo Verde, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion passes. We'll now move on to item 5C, the import application of Neurotech. Mr. Vice Chairman.
The Technical Committee has received and reviewed an import application from Neurotech Project Services, LLC. It was received July 3, 2019. It's number 1-0232-00. In this case, Neurotech is a broker requesting authorization to dispose of waste in accordance with the Act. They've specifically requested authorization for Class A, Class B, and Class C stable irradiated metal. That waste stream was approved by TCEQ in letter correspondence dated July 30, 2019. They've requested a volume of 150 cubic feet and a total radioactivity of 200 curies. The waste will originate from the state of Missouri, which is located in the Midwest Compact and does not require export authorization. I would note that the generator authorization has not been provided to date. In addition, they've asked for an agreement with the termination date of July 31, 2020 again, and they've asked that the waste be totaled against a small quantity generator set aside, which was a little bit unusual, but in this case they've also checked the box academic research. So what this means is that this waste is actually coming from the University of Missouri Rolla, which has a test reactor. So they in fact are a research entity, and so for that reason I would allow it to be, or I think it's appropriate that it be part of a small quantity generator set aside. The Technical Committee recommends approval, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for the Technical Committee on the import application of Neurotech? And Neurotech is a broker?
They're a broker, so what the research reactor is using a broker to handle the waste, which is not unusual. I know the research reactor at the University of Texas at Austin does the same thing.
Any other questions? Hearing none, I think we can move on to a motion.
I make a motion we approve the import application from Neurotech Project Services, LLC, number 1-0232-00. The waste is irradiated metal. The waste class is Class A, Class B, and Class C. The waste form is stable. The volume is 150 cubic feet. The total radioactivity is 200 curies. The agreement would terminate July 31, 2020, and this will be part of a small quantity generator set aside.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the import application of Neurotech? Any public comment on the Neurotech application? Hearing none, we'll move on to a vote. All in favor of the motion to approve the import application of Neurotech, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion passes. You can now move on to item 5D in the agenda, which is the import application of the Wolf Creek Nuclear Operating Company.
The Technical Committee has received and reviewed an import application from Wolf Creek Nuclear Operating Corporation. It was received July 10, 2019. In this case, the number is 1-0233-00. Wolf Creek is a generator requesting authorization to dispose of waste in accordance with the Act. They've requested authorization for Class A, Class B, and Class C stable and unstable dry active waste, resin, and filters, and those waste streams were approved by TCEQ in letter correspondence dated July 30, 2019. They've requested a volume of 1,500 cubic feet and a total radioactivity of 300 curies. The waste will originate from Kansas, which is in the Central Interstate Compact and does not require export authorization. And they've requested an agreement that would terminate August 31, 2020, and the Technical Committee recommends approval.
Any questions for the Technical Committee on the import application of Wolf Creek NOC? Hearing none, we will move on to a motion.
I make a motion we approve the import application from Wolf Creek Nuclear Operating Corporation, number 1-0233-00. The The waste stream is dry active waste, resin, and filters. The waste class is Class A, Class B, and Class C. The waste form is stable and unstable. The volume is 1,500 cubic feet. The total radioactivity is 300 curies. And the agreement would terminate August 31, 2020.
There's a motion. Is there a second? There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the import application of Wolf Creek NOC? Any public comment on the import application of Wolf Creek NOC? Hearing none, we'll move on to a vote. All in favor of the motion to approve the import application of Wolf Creek NOC, which is item 5D on our agenda, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion passes. We will now move on to item 5E, which is the first of two import applications of Duke Energy Brunswick.
The technical committee has received and reviewed an import application from Duke Energy Brunswick Nuclear Plant. It was received July 10, 2019. It's number 1-0234-00. In this case, Brunswick is a generator requesting authorization to dispose of waste in accordance with the Act. They've requested authorization for Class A, Class B, and Class C unstable bead and Powdex resin, water cleanup filters, and dry active waste and metals. Those waste streams were approved by TCEQ and letter correspondence dated July 30, 2019. They requested a volume of 1,200 cubic feet and a total radioactivity of 900 curies. The facility is located in North Carolina, which is unaffiliated, and they've requested an agreement that would terminate August 31, 2020, and the technical committee recommends approval.
Any questions for the technical committee on Duke Energy's first import application, which is item 5E on our agenda? Hearing none, we will move on to a motion.
I make a motion we approve the import application from Duke Energy Brunswick Nuclear Plant, number 1-0234-00. The waste stream is bead and Powdex resin, water cleanup filters, dry active waste, and metals. Waste class is Class A, Class B, and Class C. The waste form is unstable. The volume is 1,200 cubic feet. The radioactivity is 900 curies. And the agreement, or the waste would originate from North Carolina, and the agreement would terminate August 31, 2020.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion about the first import application of Duke Energy Brunswick? Any public comment on the application? Hearing none, we'll move on to a vote. All in favor of the motion to approve the import application of Duke Energy Brunswick, represented by item 5E on our agenda, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion passes. With that, we'll move on to item 5F, which is the second import application of Duke Energy Brunswick for irradiated hardware.
Mr. Chairman, the technical committee has received an application from Duke Energy Brunswick Nuclear Plant. It's number 1-0235-00. It was received July 10, 2019. The only difference between this application and the previous one is that they've requested authorization for Class B and Class C unstable irradiated metal, and that waste stream was approved by TCEQ in a letter dated July 30, 2019. They've requested a volume of 175 cubic feet and a total radioactivity of 27,000 curies. Again, it's from North Carolina, which is unaffiliated, and the agreement would terminate, they've requested an agreement that would terminate August 31, 2020. And I would note for the record that since this does exceed the 15,000 curie limit, it would be approved on a
Contingent
basis, and they would be required to provide a letter requesting specific authority to ship shortly before any shipments were made. And the technical committee recommends approval. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
As a quick note, we always like to mention that when we have an irradiated hardware application, this was the contingent curie program that we started, now it's been over a year, I guess, to address some of the issues that we saw as granting curies that exceed our statutory limit, but them never showing up because it is very hard to measure and know exactly how many Curies irradiated hardware is going to have. And what we found was that people were applying for Curies, but then not using them. So the program that we developed was it's a first come, first served basis, and they give us notice when they're ready to ship that and a more accurate description of the Curies that they intend on sending to the facility. And it has worked out well and I think served everyone's purposes. So with that, is there any other questions for the technical committee? Hearing none, I think we can move on to a motion.
I make a motion we approve the import application from Duke Energy Brunswick Nuclear Plant number 1-0235-00. The waste stream is irradiated metal. Waste class is Class B and Class C. The waste form is unstable. The volume is 175 cubic feet. Total radioactivity is 27,000 Curies. The agreement would terminate August 31, 2020, and the Curies would be approved on a contingent basis. And I would note the waste is from North Carolina.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion about the irradiated hardware application of Duke Brunswick? Any public comment on this import application? Hearing none, we'll move on to a vote. All in favor of the motion to approve the irradiated hardware import application of Duke Brunswick, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion passes. With that, we have concluded item 5 on our agenda, and we can now move on to item 6, which is a consideration and possible action on export requests. The first of those is item 6A, which is the export application for Bionomics associated with UT Galveston. Now we'll turn it back over to the Vice Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, the Technical Committee has received and reviewed an export application from Bionomics Incorporated. In this case, it was on behalf of the University of Texas at Galveston, who's the actual generator. They've requested an agreement that would terminate August 30, 2020. The volume is 7.5 cubic feet, which is in essence 1 drum of waste. The total radioactivity is 0.5 Curies. The waste class is Class A. They're proposing that the waste would be shipped to the Energy Solutions Bear Creek incinerator. In this case, the waste is biological waste, and they've noted that the best treatment, the recommended and best treatment method for that waste is incineration rather than disposal. And I think that's it. The Technical Committee recommends approval.
And I will note that the volume and Curie amount of this export application is very, very small. So it is not one that moves the needle by any means. Any questions for the Technical Committee on the export request of Bionomics?
Does WCS take biological waste?
I'll give a brief answer, and then I will let the folks from WCS answer. I think technically the answer is if it were packed properly, it's probably likely that it could be taken to the facility. Carcasses, you have to sort of overpack them with lime, and then typically that container has to go inside another container, typically filled with vermiculite. But I'll let WCS give a more technical answer.
Yeah, I think we found that it's better for the generator to be able to ship to Bear Creek in this case. Yes, we could technically take it for small volumes, though. Incineration is very appropriate for this waste, so we certainly would have to do exactly what you say, Vice Chairman, pack it and so on.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for the Vice Chairman on the export request of Bionomics? Hearing none, we'll move on to a motion.
I make a motion we approve the export application from Bionomics Incorporated on behalf of the University of Texas at Galveston. The volume is 7.5 cubic feet. The radioactivity is 0.5 Curies. The waste classification is Class A. The agreement would terminate August 30, 2020. and the waste is intended for shipment to Energy Solutions Bear Creek facility in Tennessee.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion about the export request for authorization by Bionomics associated with UT Galveston? We appreciate WCS's comments, but is there any other public comment about the export request? Hearing none, I think we can move on to a vote. All in favor of the requested export authorization of Bionomics related to waste from UT Galveston, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion passes. With that, we will move on to item 6B, which is the request for an export authorization from Cardinal Health. Turn it back over to Mr. Vice Chairman.
The technical committee has received and reviewed an export request from Cardinal Health. In this case, they are the generator. They've requested an authorization that would go through August 31, 2020. In this case, the volume is 30 cubic feet. Total radioactivity is 1 curie. It's Class A waste. In this case, the material consists of PPE and syringes and vials with biological material and/or greater than 1% liquids by volume. And so those materials in their current form would present a problem for disposal at the WCS facility, but I will let you all, at this point, if you have anything further to add to that.
My question is the 1% liquid.
Yeah,
It just kind of stuck out there.
There's things we can do to handle it, but, you know, for ease of disposal for these folks, for these small quantities, I think it makes more sense for them and it's fine with us.
The material would be is proposed to be sent to the Energy Solutions Bear Creek facility for incineration and then final processing of any ash residue to the Clive facility in Utah. The technical committee recommends approval.
Any questions for the technical committee on the export request of Cardinal Health?
I don't really have a question. I have maybe a comment looking for other commissioners' input. So in the past, we've talked about, you know, developing a philosophy behind how we consider the appropriateness of export applications, and that generally speaking, if there's a viable pathway at WCS for economic reasons, we're interested in ensuring that that justification is sound before we allow export of waste from the compact. In this case, we have two examples of biological waste that appear to be more appropriate for incineration. And from WCS representatives, it seems like they concur with that. So in general, are we factoring, or should we include that in our general assessment of any export application going forward, that biological wastes are more appropriate for incineration? It doesn't mean people couldn't choose to comply with the existing requirements in Texas, but the alternative incineration processes out of Tennessee might be a superior approach for that waste form, or at least more economical. Is that a general philosophy? If this was a very large quantity of biological waste instead of a very small quantity, would your opinion on export be changed?
Well, it's kind of industry best practices, and anything that's mixed waste, biological, and liquid and stuff, best practice really dictates that it be handled in a different manner than shallow land burial or surface burial. So until you've packed a drum with animal carcasses, which I have, you know, there's just certain things that wouldn't be best handled by sending it to WCS.
So the volume wouldn't make a difference to you?
Not
in
really.
that
I would think
assessment?
not.
Yeah, absolutely. Please come up.
Yeah, Commissioner Edwards, I think we owe you a more thorough answer, so if we could, defer to another meeting and, communicate what we would think about that, I would very much agree with Commissioner Morris that typically animal carcasses is not something that I think under any circumstances we would want to take. Certainly we have the ability to take those, but there's better pathways. When it gets just into liquids, that can be different. When it's sharps, that can be different. It all has to do with packaging and so on. But I think we owe you a thorough answer, so let me return to the next meeting and provide some information on from our perspective,
Sure.
what we think makes sense and what we think is better disposed somewhere else.
I appreciate that.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any comments on the issue that Commissioner Edwards?
She just asked how the commissioners thought, and I'm just saying, look at it on a case-by-case basis, gravitating on the expertise of them and everybody on the technical committee, and what she said is, as far as that's the industry standards, and that's how I arrive at my let it go or not let it go. Typically, I don't, but I want to know why, as you kind of alluded to, why we're losing this money. But a lot of times, we owe it to ourselves and the people of this state not to charge them money for when they don't have to.
Mm-hmm.
And I think to that point, it is a broader, the broader philosophical approach is it is a balancing of several different factors, including the desire to have a commitment from our in-compact generators to use our in-compact facility, but at the same time weighing that against the capabilities of the in-compact facility and the economic realities of that disposal. And I think all that has to go into the mix, and we have to, it's probably not calculus, it's probably more art than science, but I do think all those things, and I think this is a prime example of it, where it simply just doesn't make any sense to make them dispose of this because of the disposal method and the best practices.
Yeah, I wasn't really objecting to the export. I was really trying to explore the rationale behind not just this export application, but in general future ones.
I didn't take it that way.
Okay.
So, any other comment? I think with that, we can move on to a motion.
I make a motion, we approve the export application from Cardinal Health. The volume is 30 cubic feet. The total radioactivity is 1 curie. The waste is Class A. The material will be exported to the Energy Solutions Bear Creek facility in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. And the authorization would be through August 31 of 2020.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion about the request for export authorization of Cardinal Health? Any public comment on the requested export authorization? Hearing none, we'll move on to a vote. All in favor of the motion to approve the requested export authorization of Cardinal Health in item 6B on our agenda, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion passes. With that, we have concluded item 6, and we can move on to item 7, which is our report from Dave Carlson at Waste Control Specialist. So we're going to ask him to come back one more time.
Thank you. I'm Dave Carlson from Waste Control Specialists, and I'll report just on disposal quantities. For the fiscal year 2018-2019 through July 31st, in compact we've disposed of 2,907 cubic feet, 1,839 curies. Out of compact, 19,009 cubic feet, 163,493 curies. Where that puts us cumulatively is 147,669 cubic feet, which is 1.64% of our total licensed capacity, and 490,407 curies decayed, which is 12.61% of the licensed capacity. In terms of quarterly payments to TCEQ in Andrews County, it's the same as last time. There hasn't been a payment since the last meeting. The totals there since inception are $53,632,655 to TCEQ, $11,908,119 to Andrews County. And that's all I have for today, unless there's any questions.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Carlson? Dave, can you give us a general update on the greater than Class C issue that's going on with the facility?
Yeah, there's nothing going on with the facility with greater than Class C. The Nuclear Regulatory Commission has, over the past 5 years, developed a draft regulatory basis, and the Nuclear Regulatory Commission is holding public meetings relative to that draft regulatory basis. That doesn't indicate any action on the part of the state of Texas or WCS at this point, although some of the documents have been prepared with WCS in mind, I suppose.
And I'm sorry, I was confused about this at one point, so let me ask this clarifying question. If greater than Class C was approved for disposal at the WCS facility, it would not go into the compact cell, correct?
The way the federal statute divides up responsibilities for waste streams, greater than Class C, low-level radioactive waste is the responsibility of the Department of Energy, and therefore, if under some circumstance it did come to WCS in the future, it would go into the federal waste facility.
Any other questions for Mr. Carlson?
No, I don't.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Peter.
Just one other clarification there. At one point, I thought I understood that what the NRC was considering was actually redefining greater than Class C waste so that some of it would become Class C. Have I got that right?
So there's several things going on simultaneously, and so it's easy for them to overlap, I suppose. So the Department of Energy is actually looking at the definition of high-level waste, which has historically been based on source rather than on characteristics. So that's the real redefinition effort that's going on today. The definition of greater than Class C low-level radioactive waste remains the same. The only new item is that NRC has evaluated near-surface disposal for some of that waste.
Can I?
It's not a possible outcome of any part of this that waste that is presently considered greater than Class C could be reclassified as Class C and come to you that way.
No, sir. My understanding is the tables in 10 CFR 6155 would remain the same. So GTCC would still be GTCC. It is still low-level radioactive waste and would remain such as well.
Sorry.
Commissioner Edwards, did you have a question?
I was just going to comment on in the redefinition of high-level waste. If that's actually undertaken, I think the most probable impact is to say if you base it on characteristics rather than source, there could be material that's in the greater than Class C category that could become high-level waste even though it's not from a fuel source. It's probably unlikely because the levels of activity are very different. But my understanding is that 6155 tables would have to change, and that would take a congressional act approval for them to change in order for greater than Class C to be, or a portion of it to become Class C.
Thanks.
Any other questions for Mr. Carlson?
I just wanted to follow up. Last time that we were here, there were a couple of export applications from the utilities in the state of Texas, and it was in regards to the suitability of WCS as a appropriate receiver or co-signee of waste that might go to the RCRA cell rather than the compact cell. And there's been a number of discussions within the industry. I've attended some of those discussions, and it appears that the direction the Commission is headed is to identify that WCS is in fact an appropriate receptor of that type of waste, that the concern that they have is with a different entity. That's not final, though. There's a public meeting that's scheduled, I think, in the next month, where the NRC will be holding a public meeting to share with the industry and interested public members what their line of reasoning is and the approach is going to be. So more to come on that, but it is not a dead issue. Maybe you have more to add to that.
I think everything I have is similar to what you've heard, so I believe the direction has been set, and now the announcements and discussion are to follow.
Mm-hmm.
If I could ask, is there a date certain for that meeting yet that we're aware of?
I have the announcement, and I can send it to Lee, and Lee can forward it out to all the commissioners. And it is by, I think it's in D.C.
It's in Washington, D.C. It's September 6th, I believe.
But I'm pretty sure there's a webcast option for it.
There almost always is with NRC.
A call-in option. So, and maybe just one additional thing to add to that. I did talk to both representatives from Comanche Peak and from South Texas Project, and they indicated they had the same impression of the direction, and didn't, if it turned out that way, they did not intend to export.
And so, commissioners, in light of that meeting, it would, once we get the information about it, I would think that the more of us that could attend, at least via phone, maybe the better, because I think it would be important for us to hear some of what is said and make sure we all understand it. So once, if you'll send that to Lee, Lee sends that to everybody, please let us know if you're able to attend via phone. I don't think anybody has to be there in person, but it would be nice to have multiple sets of ears listening in. Any other questions for Mr. Carlson? Thank you very much, Dave.
Thank you.
With that, we are through item 7 of our agenda, and we can move on to item 8, which is a very, very proud thing for us to do, because we'll take a break after this one, Judge, I promise.
It's taking care of my constituent.
And I think item 8 and item 9 are probably one.
Combined into one.
Okay.
Certainly.
So item 8 is a discussion and possible action on the adoption of the amendment to our regulatory rules, 31 TAC 675.20, concerning the definition of small quantity generator, and the new rule, 31 TAC 675.25, which is a capacity reservation for small quantity generators. I will not steal our Rules Committee Chairman's thunder, but this is basically a codification of a policy we've been following for a long time. So with that, I will turn it over to Commissioner Morris.
Thank you. Thank you also to David Gordon for his guidance through this entire process. Appreciate that very much. The small quantity generator capacity reservation rule was published last month in the July 5th issue of the Texas Register. It was out for comment for 30 days, and only one comment was received, and it was in support of the rule, proposed rule. And they were offered no suggestions for change. So we are now looking at recommending adoption of the rule. So we do have one minor amendment to make, or correction to make. One technical fix, we need to insert the word "of" between the words disposal and compact in subsection B of the new rule 675.25. So it'll say disposal of compact waste rather than just disposal compact. So we'll put that word back in. So I'd like to make a motion. I move that the Commission adopt amendments to 13 Texas Administrative Code Section 675.20, which is our definitions rule, as well as the new rule 13 Texas Administration Code Section 675.25 as published in the July 5th, 2019 proposal, with the inclusion of the word "of" between the words disposal and compact in subsection B of the new section 675.25.
And I will only make one minor suggestion. Is it 13 or 31 TAC?
It's 31, yeah.
31, okay.
Yeah, 31 submitted, yeah.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
I just have a question for David. That changing of that, we don't have to go back and republish all that?
No,
this is just a technical fix.
It's a Scrivener's error, as they call it. There's a motion. Was there a second?
Yes.
Motion and a second. Any discussion about the motion to approve the adoption of or the amendment of point 20 and the adoption of point 25? Any public comment on this noble work of our Rules Committee? Hearing none, we'll move on to a vote then. All in favor of the motion to approve the amendment of 31 TAC 675.20 and the adoption of 31 TAC 675.25 as amended in the motion with the additional word, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion passes. Thank you very much, both Dave and Commissioner Morris, and thank all of you who participated in that process. I think it's important and good that we documented what I think has been our policy for a long time.
I just want to add that the Rules Committee is a working committee and requires a lot of meetings and input from the Rules Committee members, or Commissioner Salzman, Hurley, and Saudick. Thank you all, Rules Committee members.
And we hope you get a small break now before we start our next one.
Yes.
That was really items 8 and 9 on our agenda, unless the Rules Committee had anything else for item 9. Okay. So we are up to item 10, which is our update and possible action on hiring an admin assistant and executive director. I will give a brief update, and then I believe we are going to need to go into executive session, which will allow everyone to take a break. The update is initial interviews have been done on the administrative assistant position. Both Lee and Andrew conducted those interviews by phone. The next stage will be several of the commissioners will now interview the candidates as they become narrowed down. We hope to proceed with all due diligence in getting an admin hired. That is really our first goal. On the ED position, we are proceeding with that. We are working with some interested stakeholders to make sure we get as much input as possible. So that process will obviously take longer, and we'll proceed with it as quickly as we can, but it will obviously take a little bit longer than the admin position. That being said, we need to discuss some personnel items related to these two positions. So with that, the time is now 10:06 a.m. and the commission will go into executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.074 to discuss personnel matters related to agenda items 10 and really 11, which is my report. The commission will reconvene in open session after the executive session. I would think that it would take 30 minutes at the most, so I hope to be back in here and wrapping up the rest of the agenda at approximately 10:45 for everybody's planning purposes. Thank you. Do we have the room next door?
Yeah, I'm just checking it.
Okay. I didn't, it's my fault because I should have.
This can be easily managed.
We might could just go in there too, honestly.
But Andrew
We
said
have so few commissioners today, we might be able to. Hello, how are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Good to see you.
You too.
I promise we were going to get back to your internship. Just, we've been
Totally fine.
overwhelmed with everything else in the world, so.
You're totally good.
Good morning.
Thanks for coming.
How are you?
Of course, good. I have a question. So y'all are going like to Tanya's document.
Washington ain't any different.
Yes. Yeah.
It's easier if we all have to go outside.
No, we're going to go next door, so you could stay in here. You can go to the cafeteria and get you a tea or something, and then we'll come back. So when do classes start? Are you taking you're taking classes, aren't you, this next time? Okay.
On Tuesday.
Okay, on Tuesday. Okay, yeah. And so are you doing research off campus, or are you just all on research?
It's on campus.
Okay.
With my advisors.
Okay, okay. Because I was talking to TCEQ folks, and TCEQ, the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, they're the ones that actually license the waste site, and they have a number of health physics people on their staff, and they said, well, I was telling them about you, and they were saying, well, we have internships too, so Ashley is the lady sitting back and right near you, and she had long blonde hair, and she was sitting right on that side of the room. So her name is Ashley. She's the director. So introduce yourself to her. If I see her again, I can get you two together because that'd be another opportunity to make some contacts in the field.
Okay.
So did you drive from, did you fly out of Raleigh, or did you fly?
Actually, it was, Jason Franklin, Ohio,
Okay.
Tuesday, so I flew out of Cleveland yesterday.
Okay, that's not too bad.
No, it was a little shorter.
Yeah.
It is, but let's set aside 15 minutes or whatever.
Is that way we can talk about it?
Yeah. Commission email? It's set up. I'll show you. It'll take 10 minutes to show you where it's at, and that's it. Do you have a device you like to use? Like you want me to put, is this yours? Okay. We can get it on there. As long as you have an email client on there, we can, I mean, Gmail ports to pretty much anything. I can get it on my phone, you can get it on your computer, whatever.
Yeah, see, I didn't tell you about the other day when we was doing that, I already have a Gmail account.
Yeah.
Doing my Gmail account, it goes like, okay.
Well, you can have multiples. I have multiple Gmails. And then, so what'll happen is this happens with me too. It'll automatically log you on to your normal Gmail account. If you go to the top right, and click on, there'll be like a little circle up there with either your initial or your picture or whatever. You click on that, you can log off, and then when you log back in, you can log into a different one. So right now, when I log into Gmail, it says which account you want. I have like 4 of them. I got one from, like when I was in college, which nobody, which I only use for spam. You know what I mean? Like when I have to give an email address for something online or whatever, I give them that one. All my spam goes to that one. Then I have my commission one, and then I have my normal business one, and you can just pick and choose. I'll show you.
You come tomorrow?
I don't know.
I was waiting on I said that.
If Chairman wants me to come, I'll go. But right now I don't have a contract. Like August 31st, I'm done. So once we get a contract in place, and that's the next question, I'll get a wonderful model. It's up to y'all.
I screwed up last night. I pushed print when I shouldn't. But I was at a hotel. Printer,
what?
so
Oh, you I mean, I brought 3 of them just in case.
I didn't really figure. Well, it's probably pretty good to bring one in case
somebody's computer dies or whatever, and they can't do anything.
Public.
Oh, I'm not good enough to the public. They don't give TCQ's letters in the news. Jump on some technical matters. No way. Public stuff they can have. You were not in the right person. I made Alaska several times. But oh my God, why are you here?
Gatorade, that's what it does.
Whole long story of why I was there for that during the summer. Yeah, that's my story about gorgeous.
I don't know if
Just discussing.
We have every meeting on Monday. It's supposed to be done, and I told them it's supposed to be done in the 90s. They're like, how low is it? I'm like, well, my app says 909, but still.
No, I saw projections, like next week, 8 we'll start looking. It's shocking.
Yeah, oh, yeah, but this is, I'll be back on Monday.
Yeah. They're easy to hack too.
You mean just in general? Oh, for the meeting up there?
So there's going to be a detailed discussion on TCC waste.
Is there?
That's what you said, you're following up. No, animal carcasses.
Animal carcasses.
Animal carcasses, that's what you're doing.
TCC, I mean, that's, right now, that's the only.
This is awesome. 101,
Of
199,
future
1200,
interest.
I guess, next week.
We're in days. Yeah, it's just cool. It's like, if you move Oklahoma's supposed to be the coolest late next week, and as you move south, it gets warmer. We're like in the second blue band of cooling. Dallas is right on the edge, and it gets yeah, the cold front. Everyone was, I tell them every chance, like, yeah, Texas heat, like, too bad, like a month ago, and then it shot crazy, and I was like, this is so every
It has been.
You cannot manufacturing their seismic activity. The way they do that is with seismometry. So they're actually doing 3D mapping. They can get fields of seismometers looking at it. That is seismic activity. But if you got a coffee cup sitting on your desk, it's not going to fall.
We're getting our taste.
An earthquake
Yeah.
is where
At least it's not 100
Just
days.
a reminder, it's enough to
Yeah,
keep
it's
some of the,
caused by
the riffraff off.
It used to, but it doesn't seem to be working.
Yeah. Because they don't know astrologists today, and they're, it's not their opening up. They serve, I mean, you can feel it. And the only times you heat it, anybody who says you heat saltwater disposal, where they're injecting it by super high pressure.
I was gonna say yesterday it was 104, 105.
No, we'd like to have mountains.
You know, I think some of the northern states, this was true.
Where are they talking, Charlie?
Not everybody has air
Oh,
conditioning.
yeah.
Right, and,
Yeah,
they,
I grew up in Oregon.
you know, elderly and stuff will go to senior centers and stuff
She's
when
like
it's
Mark
really hot.
Hudson.
I used to give Jeff, when I first moved here,
So,
grief about,
I look at my enemy.
cold weather days that, you know,
Well, I
that
didn't
we get a
know.
quarter inch of snow.
You know, I've met her
and it's
once,
out.
and I think she's still in the process
I
of
get
learning
mileage
this
out
stuff.
of there, and early on, we went to
It says on the
Rock
bar.
Iowa, which is where I grew up, and it was in
She's got
August.
one.
School was just in
She's got it.
session, and they had hot weather
She can't
day.
do all
Hot weather
The
day.
kids didn't have to go to school, and it was
You know,
like
like I'm saying, that
88
Yeah.
or something.
a lot of these
And
issues
it's like,
come
speaking of
it was
winds.
twisted. So people get confused.
We don't have air conditioning.
You know, there's so much legislation and statutes and rules and everything. You're tangled up with it. And then forever.
No, people are being evacuated the state.
Well, it's-
They bring in the National
It's all
Guard.
in how you dress.
Yeah.
I mean, for cold,
Fast incentive.
you have all your coats
Well, I mean,
go down over your
doesn't
hips.
that
And you have real gloves and real
Yeah.
hats and scarves. People have
Because I
these.
live there.
Yeah.
Not
Y'all
here.
don't?
You don't really need
No, I
them.
get
So
it.
when you get to weather,
Yeah,
that
so
it'd be nice to have
when
them.
did you see a check from them
I'm not gonna
to
go
any of
back
our
to your gloves
elementary
for
schools?
today.
Yeah.
Our schools are here.
Yeah. I won't be able to find it.
Yeah.
It is. Montgomery County Judge Millen, they're reviewing it over.
I don't know, I bought stuff that's like, 4 or 5 years ago, it just sits in a Tupperware bin for like a week, a year. Last summer, I was in Wisconsin, like February, last summer I broke that.
Although I won't. And some of that stuff you get for skiing for like long
Brother's
jumps
office
and
run
stuff
on
that are
to it.
really
I don't know, I think I
skinny,
got.
it's sort of nylon-y stuff, but it works really well. It's great on walks. It's in January, February. It's cold.
Yeah, what I'll do is I'll try to lay this drum roll over here and let y'all sort through it and get a sense of it.
I don't know specifically, I think somebody.
I think that might be, probably show and tell, and always better than just talking
One
about
of
it.
the schools is really went out. I was late this morning. Yeah. And then we go farther west, we got a mountain line across the street from us, so we got seen again. Not for last.
I was in that group. They were just sitting in refrigerators in the parking lot.
Waiting down, waiting. Called me, can you shoot him? I said, yeah, this is the next. And so, anything you do aggressively, yeah.
Is that where you have to scream like it's attacking? It ain't like.
Yeah, I mean, it's already got,
It ain't like it
his
used to
hooves
be.
around it. And I said, the other thing you gotta think about, you live in the freaking national forest, so I mean, it's like.
I was gonna say.
You wouldn't have moved in on them, they didn't freaking.
Protect you, that's right.
And then there's a bear, I guess there's a bear a mile.
You get any bears out your way?
Really? That was nice. I thought you talked to Brenda. You talked to Brenda, I said, right there.
Anyway, she said I know it.
Yeah, okay. But it's not wrong.
You guys are talk business.
There's
I'm
even
gonna
a
anyway.
way to it. Well, if you want to mark it up and add more to it, again, it may be trivia that is not important for what you're driving at. So I'm sitting down in Ashland tomorrow, so if you have more that's, sports that, you know, there's upstream, midstream, downstream. Right, so there's limitations on what counts as all gas norm. Right, and it's just that, so you use stuff in the field because of the midstream, downstream stuff. Well, some midstream falls to railroad commission, like, if you're talking pigs for pipelines, somehow that falls in railroad commission. It shouldn't. No, Dan doesn't just want it.
Yeah, I know he does. But the reason I know something about this is I do work for Dan. And she gathering lines, tankage, upstream, you get into transporting barges, rail cars.
So you say, as soon as it's big enough for you to go into, then you're into midstream.
So some of this stuff is really TCP, but you know that they, for years, nobody really, hold against railroad.
So everything in the refinery, TCQ is looking at that. Do they do anything about it?
I don't know, I don't think they have any law rules at all.
I think it gets some norm, I'm sure, cleans down pipes.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, they got catalysts that are radioactive and so on.
I got a call, was a few years ago, down to Port Arthur, to a gas processing plant. It's just basic workplace, it's 400 power, micro per hour. But, all in place everywhere. Well, you know what's funny about that? We went out and plant, they're pushing billions of cubic feet of natural gases. So I put on this fire retardant, not fireproof, fire retardant, it's not, after surveying us 4 or 5 of them, and they switch it off. You just go down and see, it was amazing. Switch it off 4 or 5 microbar. I looked around and said, send her the pitch fire. No, he said, had a fire last week. I'm in this fire retardant, not fireproof.
Yeah.
They're worried about 400 microbar per hour.
Like, I'm getting out of here, because I don't want to get burned up.
Yeah. But there is norm in refineries.
Oh, yeah, it's gotta be. I mean,
USA Environmental, that's all they do, down Texas coast, clean up norm and other refineries.
So, by descaling pipelines, what are they doing to get more of that?
Valves, pumps, tanks. Yeah, they descale pipelines, but then they knock out tanks.
Yeah, you're not gonna do a whole lot with the valve.
Well, the oil and gas companies, chemical companies are just crazy about health and safety.
Yeah.
Yeah. They pay a lot of money to get anything crazy. They call me up, they've got radiation going on in the body.
Not a former
And they got union workers. Well, they take that stuff into the machine shop, they weld, bang, saw, grind, it's got 1 to 10, a lot of good, a lot of natural gas. They should be doing that. Yeah. Protection and all, gas right there. Wash your clothes.
Yeah.
Wash your hands. So, it's got some naturally occurring alpha good stuff that you need to be conscious of.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit of waste. Some companies have really good people.
She's at Telsey on the way.
She said we'll see.
Telsey, they're going for our cat, so I think the odds of seeing her are low until she's turned in money.
Okay. I was actually just getting ready to see if I was gonna head over to find her, but it's 10:30 or something, I'll get in before I have to leave my flight.
This might be the world's quickest insurance.
Yeah, that's good.
Oh, yeah, it has to average after the last one.
I got smart, watching someone.
Yeah.
Carrier in Austin. The brother's got 3 insurance policies. She got Medicare. My dad was a union worker. She's got, and then he was a disabled veteran from World War II veterans, and she has a kid benefits as well. So
Doesn't mean you have to do it, basically.
Particularly for medicine.
Yeah. Oh, for getting medication.
Off of the medication, I was gonna say, hopefully it's not getting in to see it.
No. She can go.
That's still a work in progress.
She goes where she wants to go. She's got Champions. So that's the good thing about that thing is, and she's got home health care too. But, I get distracted last week trying to take care of it.
No, I can't realize when it's silly to get up down. Yeah. I mean, it'd have to be like an 8 a.m. meeting to get me to try to stay that evening. I'd probably contemplate just getting up early and driving. Okay. Well, it's not a rush. You just had to get it before. It's not something I want to do every morning. You can do it once in a while.
Found myself waking up at 4:30. I thought I had it lit at 5:30, I'd wake up and get up. And
Get early riser.
And, well, I didn't used to be, keeps getting earlier all the time, so now it's 4:30, I'm starting to wake up. You know, try to lay down till 5,
Yeah.
whatever. And eventually, I guess.
It's just fine, I'll get you're changing, your sleep habits are changing, or you just have to question it.
No, I just leave it.
Yeah, I can't anymore. I can't even sleep in past 7 on the weekends.
No point to it.
Drives
If I don't have
drives
coffee
Jody
at 5:30,
crazy.
I'm kind of, my day's not going well.
Oh, it's funny.
You know, I have a home office, so I get up, I still get up probably about 6:30. I get dressed till 3, since I've been working late.
You don't need to tell me that, because next time you're talking to me before 3, that's just gonna pop into the back you say, and it's gonna pop into my head. It's not something.
Did you know John Greaves, he was with the NRC, he was there at Bradway Scout for years. I was sitting there working, I was in a t-shirt, and I had my hair cold, thank God. And I was working away, and my computer popped up with Skype. So I hit it, and the camera came on, and there was John Greaves, he was sitting there with his hair cold and a t-shirt, working in his house. I thought, I gotta fix this.
Yeah.
And he just wanted to see if it was working. It was.
Like, okay, good test. Good
A
test.
little piece of tape over the camera, I thought,
There you go.
get that.
Well, they make those adhesive sliders now.
Yeah.
So you can still use it like you want to talk to your kids or whatever on Skype. You just pop it over and it locks in place and doesn't come on.
I work with big DC law firms. Well, I'll just come to Austin, we can sit down and give you a conference room. After you go to Austin, we'll set it up. I'll do that. My girl's my wife, first thing I told her, call her my girl, I was working in the garage.
Yeah. You're lucky.
You have a meeting in your garage then too.
Yeah, plenty of space. Just put cars in the lot.
There you go. You just want to cool around there?
Actually, I don't have a car anymore, so I got issues with it.
Oh, you still haven't replaced it?
Still without a car.
What?
Like
when the
You've
insurance
got a car for the rest of my life.
You like it?
I like to use Uber or Uber everywhere. I took well, not now, so I didn't drive, and with the scooter, I take the bus. I made some real good friends on the bus.
Get one of those little e-driving cars too that park all over the place.
You get that, you know, I mean, you could theoretically get a scooter, but then get on a scooter. I tell you what I did, I took the train, which, there's this kind of everybody uses it. It's a nice trip to get down to.
Really? But they keep talking about putting in the monorail from Dallas to Austin. And I think
I'm all for it.
Yeah.
I've always, for all my life, I've been a fan of mass transit.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
Yeah, well, that's because people don't want to use it.
Yeah.
For the most part, you get some usage like here, but like the dark one, Dallas, man, that thing goes down most of the time. Unless it's like people parking to go to like a Maverick Mavericks game or something that happens to be right down that way downtown.
I got on the train one morning, I had an 8 o'clock meeting downtown, it was 6:30. It was all people your age and younger, you know.
Oh, those kids.
They had bicycles, and all high-tech workers.
All the tech workers.
They're all coming downtown, but the train was packed at that time, and but going home that evening.
Well, it's like I'm at an HBS meeting. You're like, you know, you kids are taking this stuff over. I'm like, you know, I'm a 41-year-old man, right? It's just, it's not a good sign in an industry when everybody's at the age where they think at 41 you're just the next generation just getting started.
Well, you are actually.
Well,
You're getting to that age now where you're able to take over. And I'm in the age right now, step aside. I think about that a lot.
No, that's fair, but the perspective I'm talking about, they're really thinking like I just got out of school.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're, you know, HPs, they'll die before they retire. Most of the time, you get their trick is they retire and they become subcontractors and fill the same job for them.
I remember when I was your age, you know, and guys my age would say, well, that's the way to do it, the way we've always done it.
Am I sure that
Sure.
answer?
So I try not to be that guy. I really do. On the other hand, when some 25-year-old doesn't count his, I think that some of there's a little too much enthusiasm sometimes, not enough experience.
Yeah, you gotta have a little bit of salt, but it's interesting. There's, you know, I guess the dynamics of the industry right now as far as kind of the age range and the professional brackets, at least on the health physics side. There's supposedly, since I don't know, the last 12, 15 years, there's this mass retirement exodus that's going to happen in the industry. It's been coming. It keeps getting pushed back. Where it's going to happen, all these jobs are going to open up, but it just never seems to materialize. It seems to be, there was this big push at one point to get a lot of kids through school, their education, get into the industry. And I feel like it's
growing.
It's growing now. It's kind of, now the industry is kind of dropping off a little bit. You know, it's a bird decommissioning.
Pretty sad. I know it is sad.
My fear with that is, I mean, it's good work for if you're in the business, but there's going to come a time when we go, crap, we need computing power. And there won't be the infrastructure in place, and it'll take 10, 15, 20 years to
You know what I worry about? I was up before really, we're shutting all those military reactors down.
Yeah.
You know, our portable reactors. The Chinese and Russians are building floating reactors. I just wonder whether or not they're short sighted.
Well, the SMRs are
diesel generators.
the SMRs are actually picking up the pace. I don't think they're picking up it right. Yeah, they are. They just started a whole program. I have a friend of mine who went to grad school. She's over it for the Army.
Really?
Yeah, she's like, I keep wanting to try to get her to come give talks at some meetings. Yeah, she just made her own. She was a 10 of my better. It's crazy. Anyway, 10 years. That's still pretty quick, I think, to make that jump. But anyways, so she's really excited.
I'll let you know.
But yeah, the military, one of the biggest people who are looking is actually the DOE.
Good.
Okay. That's scary. We had somebody supposed to be here who fell out on coming in this morning. We'll get rushed to the hospital.
Here we are, Austin. I'm glad to hear the military's got some SMRs.
Well, they're working towards. I mean, you got to have something to power the mobile cams and stuff.
Yeah.
You don't always have that. You know, No, they are, and I don't think the SMR is the answer for everything. I think it's for more remote communities and things. I think it's smaller communities is a good thing, but you still need substantial power plants in place to keep the major cities' infrastructures running.
So, you know, I worked in this market for quite a while, and you're right, a lot of the benefit is islands, small communities, places that can't get power easily. So, you know, replacing diesel generators makes sense.
Yeah.
Most of the time. You know, the only other thing that makes sense is if somebody like Fluor can get the cost of this new scale plant down.
Yeah.
Reasonable enough, then, you know, instead of a $10 billion investment all at once before you gain power,
Yeah.
you do incremental $1 billion investments, and then it makes some sense. But, you know, if they can't get close to the same cost per kilowatt hour as a big plant, then they're struggling.
Yeah.
So,
I know the,
and then, you know, the problem too is that there's so much subsidy out there still, you know, subsidy, so you're fighting not only,
natural gas.
you know, absolutely, and natural gas is cheaper, probably, but in the case probably a little cheaper, so, and natural gas is good fuel, I just didn't kind of like that.
Yeah.
But,
It's better than letting it go out the stack.
yeah, I
That's
mean,
what we used to do.
drive West Texas, no, we still do, you drive West Texas,
Yeah.
and there's all over. It's just simply a way to get the pipe to where somebody can use it. All the pipeline infrastructure seems to be used for.
What are you gonna put now? History of oil and gas in Texas, I think it's out of 1543 to 1934. And it's interesting how we changed. I think back then they had tanks, they dig a hole in the ground, put oil in there, and then they put in barrels, put on a train, take it someplace. Natural gas in 1543, it talks about.
How did it, gas go out of the ground?
Well, no, back then, oil was bubbling up out of the ground in Texas. They were using it pitch for their ships.
Oh, okay.
To waterproof their ships. The Native Americans were using it for medicine.
Ooh, it's so bad.
Yeah, and,
Yeah.
you know, my dad, when I was growing up, he was convinced kerosene would kill anything. And if you cut yourself, you go pour kerosene on it.
I got kill whatever's on there.
Yeah, we never try and get over that. You soak your foot in it.
It's like, what is that, my Big Fat Greek wedding at Windex?
Same thing.
Yeah, Greek guy, Windex cures everything. I got this, he sprays it with Windex. It's ammonia, I guess theoretically it'll dry it out. I don't know if I necessarily want somebody squirting me with it.
I guess you used to buy kerosene, you used to be able to buy it at every service station.
I'm sure they've seen,
Somebody must have.
I've seen camping lamps, I've seen smaller stuff that still use kerosene here and there, but it's not real common. Everything's gone propane or white gas.
I bought a bunch of thorium whenever I went into.
Where did you find them?
Well, I went, I was trying to find something, I had to do a presentation. So I went into REI with my meter, I'm walking down this, like this. It's the lantern now, none of which are radioactive.
No, none of the new ones are.
The manager came over and said, excuse me, can you tell me what you're doing? I said, told him about for radioactive. He said, I don't think we have that stuff in here. I wanted to say, I bet you do, if I keep looking. I left because I think that was irritating. But I bought them on eBay.
So I actually have like 4 or 5 of them. They're
They're cheap,
from
yeah.
Vietnam. Somebody went over there on a whatever, on vacation, found a bunch of actual thorium nanometals, and they grabbed them. And when I was in grad school, I'd come in and throw them on the detectors to show people, like, you know, there's stuff in the house, you know, try that, or you go Fiesta, where just to show like all the stuff.
There's collectors that collect, it's radioactive, so.
You saw that?
No, we got stuff on it.
Remember,
the mics were hot.
For each
So whatever
bill
you
site
talked about,
that you finish,
it's gonna be on the mic.
every person that was working on the project.
Yeah, Alaska,
a little
people
bottle
in
of
hospitals.
Miltowns, right?
What?
Because they all had different colors and they were kind of neat, but
I got half a dozen.
of course Milltown was pretty hot, so right around,
said, okay, everybody, do we ever send one of these things? Because we'll pay FedEx, you ship back to us, so we get rid of them, we take them all over and junction. Better on speaker disposal, so. Well, I got one. You have to count finals. Oh. Is that Fall City?
Yeah. Yeah, they have, and they get the whole week showing, so. She only gets Thursday and Friday off, and she round round.
No round.
You know, last year, they had two in fall and spring. Hey,
I can't deal with it, I can't deal with it.
Not back in the day. Today used to be. They just shut the whole thing down. I think you might have got. Well, there's they didn't shut down. I mean, it's rather disturbing. You used to love finding something just because it's so cool at room temperature. And you think now you're like, I wonder how much nerve damage I ended up with because I played with stuff this year. Look at the National Geographic. There's a guy laying on a pond of mercury on his back because he floats so high. So, in Oak Ridge, one of the labs, they had a guy whose job it was to get on a little boat with artillery. So much mercury they run a boat on. And his job was down there to keep the mercury stirred up. So he would sit on his boat and drive it around the lake of mercury underneath this building. That was his whole job. Like, years later, he ended up with a lot of issues. And you look back on it now and you're like, well, yeah, you drive the boat around the lake of mercury to keep it stirred up. You know, back when, weapons complex days were there. There was some reason they had to keep it, they had to keep it mixed up. And they were using a boat prop. You would just run around the lake of mercury with a boat prop stirred up. Wow. You wonder why Oak Ridge is so great. Yeah. With DOE.
To them, it's totally.
It is not.
I think there's.
It'd be drums. Well, yeah, just sitting on balance. It's all. I heard about it for a while. Yeah, nothing really about it. It's all metal. The DOE is obligated to provide a storage site coordination for government work. They have put that, but it's also commercial. We take the issues that you go with. So the only issue, law has to say, okay, we can store it. Which elementary days? Still, interpretation has been done, okay, because of our facility doesn't have space for storage. So,
oh, okay.
That's right.
No, it is. It's what's her high school? Westwood. Oh, see, Westwood is one of the best high schools. That's a great high school. Oh, yeah, she's telling that. I know, that feels very reasonable to me. Missiles around, not appropriate protections. Well, it's like I was out in Oak Ridge facility, it's closed down, I don't remember the name of it, but they had part of their facility designated for Army. They had their mobile scanning trucks. They have a pretty hard, heavy sensors. What they would do is they would set one truck up on the side that people want. And then over on the other side, they have a detector to look at. You can detect out high density materials and things like that based on the collection of stuff. So they, oh yeah, I mean, they were like, as long as you kept using it, they wouldn't expose anything. Yeah, they would tell people, just be walking through, they'd be sitting there, watching, just all sitting there ready to mobilize anytime. Store it there, and then store it there. Like, oh, what are those sources? Like, oh, we're not opening anything up. I'm like, okay, gotcha. I think I had a few ethical questions.
She thinks like she should have runs all the way like approved.
Also, the first grade, resolution, the first grade.
I don't know. Originally military, I was really dances we got as good as shit. Fire someone wielding them in the air, hope to God we don't get hit. Those technical ops are as advanced as we were. Best of so.
Yeah, well, it's 10:45, so it's ready to start.
I'll try. By the way, that's all I guess, you know, so that we're.
Used to be shriven up, then it was.
Oh, yeah, that's what it is, right?
Yeah.
And then they're gonna be here next week.
Right, here Tuesday night.
Let's just stay on the street.
Which one of them?
Is it on the sixth?
Yeah, like there's no snakes in Texas.
Yeah, because it's just too critical to us. They were told us which ways they're going, so it's gonna make a huge. They're not gonna back off, they're supposed to keep around, so it'll be new guidance, but basically their interest is that a licensee on the power plant, if they're going to exempt things, needs to go with the guy that issues the license before they take it to industrial disposal or rapid disposal.
It would still be appropriate to come to us because we are licensed.
It's not coming to us, it's licensee to licensee, so they have no interest in it.
It's them to unlicensed.
It's them to unlicensed entity, they're saying, yeah, so if they go to this point, so sludge that's like contaminated through exemption process, either NRC has to approve it, or that landfill has to have it.
Tom, I think you're gonna win the bet.
Well, that landfill done.
I've already won that, Eddie.
I went high.
You stayed at 10:30.
Oh, man.
Okay, so we're also looking at.
So, yeah, I made it.
So the focus of the meeting will be to directly.
You've been around the Capitol long enough now.
You know, we do,
worst was in
that's
this
not.
room, I think it was on Senate Road.
It's cheaper, just a cent.
I had like a floor, I could control it was carrying.
So.
Why don't we use our office?
Well, Energy Solutions consultant, Larry Camper, was the guy that initially went through our program for the state of Texas and said, looks good. So, you know, I don't know how they object to what we're doing, plus, you know, if they look at, what's going on in terms of folks are from Maurice, how does that look different? You should go license. I mean, there's been no reason in the industry.
That's public, so it's like one of our two sides in our.
That's, oh, my goodness, you know, many times.
It's on the 27th.
Energy Solutions, we're shipping that to a unlicensed facility. Shipping it to a licensed, 4,100.
They use that.
Oh, it's that, I can't go, I'm gonna take this.
This is where we'll find out how strictly enforcement is about.
They're pre-law class.
Oh, so you're not gonna be able to.
No, it's on Tuesday. So he's taking, he's in paralegal.
Oh, that's cool.
And he's taking pre-law class.
You pay somebody, you know.
It's on Tuesday.
Like, oh, I know I said that.
So he's got to navigate his way downtown, but he's a new driver, so the first few weeks I'm there. And it's like it's 6:30. So yeah, I need to tell you that.
No.
It is, it's hard, but
Whether or not you're an experienced driver.
whoever's teaching it, I'm gonna guess whoever is teaching it is an attorney, probably has a very good, so that's why it's.
Well, there's a couple of big jobs.
again, like we talked about in the summer meeting.
Speaking of that.
Could you get that to
No. Well, he's not heard from today's Thursday. If it's earlier in the week,
Tuesday afternoon, and I stopped into a store, these guys.
you don't
Then
know
you have to
that.
be the
Just
exception.
freaking call.
And
And
then,
worst they'll
just
say
say
is
this,
no.
you
we
have
made
to
a
be the
different
exception.
Did they?
No matter
It
what
shows
you do.
interest.
Was it the World War II guys, or was it insurance?
Both.
Oh,
Both of my kids are that.
Like, I
They're
still
like,
call them
nobody
other
does
comments.
that.
I don't order comments online. I call
Because they were
them.
dying out too fast, so they combined it with another group.
And they know my name.
It was a
and
big
they
crowd,
always know.
and
The
I
other day,
saw
I had
all these
Chinese
guys
food
sitting
come to my house and I hadn't even ordered it.
there.
So I was like,
A couple of them.
and the guy was like,
Some
"Baby?"
were diesel.
and I'm like, "Dad, he goes, just take it. I don't know who it's for.
So
Just
they
take
think,
it."
are you Nate?
So I was like,
I was texting.
okay, because he's like, I've been wandering around your apartment for like an hour. Just take it anyway. It's great. Because he knew me. And I was like, that's fine, because I don't cook anything. And he's like, Amy, just take it. I knocked on your door because I know you. And I just gave it. He's like, I know you like General Tso's. Just take it.
Tougher when you're. Yeah. I mean, those guys, every time you used to see.
And most of our colleagues are. She said they don't talk to each other.
Is there any truth to the World War II, the U-boats?
Not at this time. This is not good. Yeah.
Oh, we don't spill it on the carpet, right?
Then he spilled. I'm the legislative person.
Lived.
Yeah, unless there's no state trooper.
I think what happened, I'm honored, so my dad was a commissioner. So
They didn't get it. 20 minutes after.
Yeah.
But, for some reason,
I remember we ran an experiment. They swapped out our props for a submarine prop. And they brought in, the Marines came in, and never seen so much security for some steel. Like, now you can't look at, you can't see the, they had to keep it covered up, it was underwater, so you couldn't see inside, you had to pitch at the ankles.
Bronze, they used to be special bronze.
They bronze.
But then they went.
All the utilities were not underdeveloped, but they were utilities. Now, all these merchant plants are not developed.
So you got great staff. And it's,
Maybe all of us.
go all out, that invitation,
Yeah.
always a good job. Eventually, more bleed, you have more push you get with less stuff, so it's a good invitation. So, look at the surface ship drop, it's.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
So it's. What do you know? It's. But you told me.
Yep. Special warfare. Oh, I just did 4 years in college. Took my JBL in college fund, got out. I still have a friend, a couple friends are still have. Actually, both of them are now master chiefs, very weird. Just actually, I was in San Diego here, earlier this last year, and one of them, next to his last duty station, probably, went down and had dinner with them. It's like, I can't believe the damn master chief now. We used to get drunk up here, we just looked at God, like, those days, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, yeah, you do. He's like, yeah. Just can't do that anymore. Just can't do that anymore. Oh, what's it? It's, understatement. He's.
But back in the seventies, God, I remember God, we was in the seventies. Oh my goodness. You know, and that's where people hunt. I mean, you go to bases used to have, Officers Club, Chiefs Club, we had Service Club, Service Club.
What do you want to do?
Well, we'll see. Yeah, those are.
I can go back.
And now, they pretty much consolidated down and make
Maybe that's why I bought
really
an hour
big
mark.
things from maybe.
Yeah, it's your age.
Typically, it's all
We've been through this before.
slow as like a
Things are slow.
Mhm.
Well, it must be a
Yeah,
big
they-
deal,
they-
you know, that they have the name for
The
so
clubs
long.
used to be subsidized.
Jeez.
Break even.
How's Amanda doing?
She's good.
Yeah.
She's always good.
Early 10:30 lunch.
Ballrooms in New York, where you got the band out there, the bandstand, you got the wood floor, you got all the little, you got booths around the dance floor, that kind of thing. It was big time stuff.
Yeah. Yeah,
He is.
yeah, I didn't experience any of that. But in Rosie Roads, I didn't stay in the office room. Just about. Yeah, they were way nicer than those. It wasn't even longer.
It longer. The office quarters out. I stayed at there's some insurance that finally sold out.
He
Part of our ranch.
back in.
But, you know, they had this great convicts down there. War party, whatever. Guys are all getting really good. And so the hero going right out of prison where they stay overnight. And the Bureau of Prison went down there, took a look at the officers' quarters. He said, "Oh, this is substandard, we can put prisoners in here." Really?
That's hilarious.
Oh, two nights.
Yeah.
Oh, that's,
There was none, but.
oh, no. So we did a couple of break tours, we did some narcotics work out. Then we did some international, so we did work in the Dutch.
Oh, well, sure.
That's part of it. So, because it was, I work mostly with SWIC elements. We have a lot of related Chris. But we did work with the SEALs SWIC, the specific mission we were doing, coastal lead crews. But because I was the only communications guy on board, I was with the Dutch ship, so we would wait for us to talk, because we couldn't share crew. So I go over there, and they're, by the way, way nicer. Way fun to drink with. And I said that. Don't play darts from my favorite. Get over to them. They have a, on their officers' only drink beer. And because I was not technically Dutch, like, "No, come over, you can grab a technical, head back over to yours." All right. We got the communication stick, so we got to sit down. Their other ship underway. So we're like, yeah, it's people are responsible. Like,
Middle of the afternoon?
yeah, this is like 2 o'clock. I'm like, yeah, okay.
Well, it's sick, but when I was going to the.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Just after. It was like 10:06-ish.
Oh, okay. So the employee fall down? No, she said it's out trouble. She a hard saved last week.
And she should.
Seriously.
Yeah.
John, you can all go swim.
getting ready to. So we're going to Yellowstone, Grand Teton, about the third week of September.
I love that park. Grand Teton.
We've never been to either one, so
Okay.
I think it's going to be a wonderful trip.
Yeah, there's some lakes right.
Oh yeah, well there's, I mean,
We'll all fall in line.
all different types of lakes that are easy water. When they describe the stream.
You get fine.
Yes. That's just
electronically.
So you have to scan them all.
Yeah. And there's a woman at her office named Kathy. I don't know her last name, but it's
Yes,
Kathy.
Kathy. Yeah.
What's Kathy's last name? Donna?
I can probably find it.
Donna?
Yeah.
Oh, I have it if you need to. Yeah. Brandon, if June wanted to check in with the person that got their
So what are we doing for lunch?
I think that's starting.
There is a luncheon, I believe, at Deb Holland's office, which is nearby.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it. I thought I was going to, but I got busy with other things.
But I kind of looked at the lows probably in the mid-40s,
Lisa,
the highs.
it's Kathy Dodenhauer. Yeah,
So it'll
Dodenhauer.
be much cooler.
Can you text me her contact? 469?
Okay, hold on, let me get it. I think I've got yours, but anyhow, go ahead.
469-586-7468.
Okay. You just want her email address?
Yeah, that way I can scan this in when I get home and send it off.
As long as I can find the exit that we came in. Have to find a way out before you can go to the next place. You know where Lee and Andrew are?
Usually.
Oh, there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very sorry about the delay, but the time is now 11:02 a.m. and we are back on the record in open session. No votes were taken in the closed session, and I'll open the floor for any public discussion on items 10 or 11 before we move on. I will add as part of my chairman's report, which is item 11, we're very happy to announce that I think we are having our office furnished based on the efforts of Lee and Andrew soon. They're making the big trip to IKEA, so our office has really taken form, and we appreciate all of that. As I said, we hope to have our admin hired in the not-too-distant future, and we will proceed as diligently as we can with our executive director search, and we will give updates as they are available. With that, I believe we're concluded through item 11, and we will go on to item 12, which is the executive director's report from Lee Ng.
The only thing I have to add to what you said, Chairman, is that the furniture is to be delivered tomorrow, sometime between 9 in the morning and 9 at night. And I will be at the office waiting for it to come, and we'll have furniture. And that concludes my report.
I will stop at this point and say this will be the last meeting where Lee and Andrew are officially our executive director and assistant executive director. They will continue in an hourly capacity to help us transition, but I want to open the floor to have everyone say what they want, but I don't know if I can express in words how much we appreciate what Lee and Andrew have been to us over the last, well, longer than I've been on the commission, so 7+ years. They are the heart and soul. They have always gotten everything done each one of you probably owe them multiple favors for all the things that they have done for everyone in this audience and hopefully many people listening. It has been a real privilege and honor to work with them. I hope our friendships continue because this has been, and for them I know, a labor of love because it sure isn't about the money and it sure isn't about the prestige. So they have done it out of the goodness of their heart, and I think they have a genuine zeal to make sure that the state of Texas, the state of Vermont, and really the country is provided for as best they can be when it comes to low-level radioactive waste. They have, they really have everybody's best interest at heart, and they have for a long time. And what they have done is really commendable beyond words. And I don't know how we'll go on without them, but we will try to find a way. And I'm sure that we will be calling them often to say, wait a minute, I don't understand how you ever overcame this problem. Can you explain it to me? And I'm sure that we will grow to respect and appreciate them even more after they are gone. So I just want to say that and thank them very much for all their hard work over the last several years. So, and I want to open it up to make sure everybody else has an opportunity to express their thanks.
So I would also like to express my thanks to Lee and Andrew, both professionally and personally, for all the assistance they have provided me over the years and trying to figure out what it meant to be a commissioner and then a vice chair and all the things that have to be done. And the time that we spent together getting prepared for budget hearings and not having any idea what that would be like, and them coaching and counseling me on what to expect. But I just want to say thank you for everything to both of you, and obviously plan to stay in communication and contact with both of you, and again, thank you for all you've done for the commission and for me individually. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you, John.
Ditto. So I'm the only one here that got started when it got started. So this is the second time I get to go through redoing it. But you did it a lot better than the first time. And but Margaret had her problems back then, just like you do, just like the next guy will be. But I take both of y'all at heart that you're friends of mine, always have been friends of mine. My phone number will stay the same. If you need to call me, whatever. But I'm not going to be teary-eyed or anything like that. So, but I have appreciate the work y'all do here and other places like the low-level forum and places that most people don't even know we deal with or scrape shoulders with. So appreciate that also, because it does take work to do that. And anyway, I'm done. Thank you.
I was hoping you were going to get teary-eyed there for a minute. But well, I haven't been on the commission all that long yet, but I certainly appreciate the warm welcome, Lee, that both you and you, Andrew, gave me when I came on board, and the help with sort of getting oriented and understanding the role and responsibilities. You know, some people are called to serve a larger good. I think that's part of this role, and I think you should be proud of your contribution to that.
Anyone else would like to say anything?
You know, speaking for Dick Sodak, not something I'm often brave enough to undertake, but on this occasion, I would like to just add on Vermont's behalf our appreciation for the hard work that you've done, the ways that you've always been sure that Vermont is treated well and even-handedly. The phrase two-state solution means different things to different people, but you've been really good at nurturing the one that we have here.
Well, me just want to say thank you. You guys have been great colleagues in this effort, and enjoyed working with you. Thank you.
And I'm sure all of you out in the audience will want to express your gratitude with lavish gifts, and they're no longer under contract, so you can bribe them with whatever you want to bribe them with. The commission's work is important and getting more important, and we will miss their expertise and their absolute yeoman's attitude towards getting things done. I will conclude by saying we will probably need to lean on many of you in the audience to help us get through this transition, because we can't replace them overnight, and no matter who we hire, they will have a long way to go to becoming as effective and good as Lee and Andrew will. So as we transition through this process, we will likely be looking to many of you out there to help us as we struggle through this. With that, we are to item 13, which is our discussion, or our notification of our future meetings. Our next meeting is October 10th in Montpelier, Vermont. After that, the only last scheduled meeting is November 21st here in Austin. We will develop a schedule for calendar year 2020 in the next month or so. Obviously, I say this every time, but we will not meet just for the sake of meeting. We will obviously have our Vermont meeting, but going forward after that, we will keep everyone apprised if for some reason we do not need to meet because of a lack of business or a lack of commissioner availability. But does anyone have any questions about future meetings? We will always be looking to possibly take our show on the road, as we have done now a couple of times. We will go back to Andrews eventually. There's even been some discussion of potentially holding a meeting near one of our in-compact generators to allow us to tour their facilities, and so we will be looking to all that in the coming months as we schedule out 2020. With that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting and wish Ms. Ng and Andrew a fond farewell.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Yes.
All in favor, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you all very much.